All right, I'm doing this in my garage because all four of my kids are home and Stephanie's at work. And if I tried to do it in the Scout Media or writing office, I'm sure that we would be interrupted a lot. But it's a nice day out, and so I figured I'd do it out here, less chance of getting interrupted. So I have not read any of these questions, well, maybe a handful. So I'm going to be seeing them as I read them, and I'm going to answer as many as possible. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Brian. I started fiction writing 5 years ago today, and I'm glad it stayed small and humble. That was always my goal, is a self-promotion coffee mug. And I'm sorry about Manny, or maybe I'm not, I don't know. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's for Carrie. That question's for Carrie. For Carrie. That question's for Carrie. That question's for Carrie. Okay, I guess I'm done here. That's great. They're all for Carrie. You guys like her more than you like me. Nope. Question. Oh, when is someone from fiction writing going to actually start a taco truck? That is a really important question. I have planning on using our 10-year anniversary and getting a hoverboard taco truck to deliver all over the world, and I will make my tacos for you. All right, more questions. Question for Carrie. For Carrie. For Carrie. Great. What is your favorite kind of taco? Okay, so basically all the questions are either for Carrie or about tacos. This is gonna be awesome. My favorite kind of taco is crunchy, taco meat, then lettuce, then cheese, then tomato, then the sauce. Can't go wrong. Let's see. What is recommended for the font size for a book? Oh, that's for Carrie too. This is great. Let's see. Is it compulsory to have a picture on the front cover of one's novel? Okay, so that one's for Kyle, or maybe Carrie, so good to go. Oh, for Brian, yes. Editing question. Lay versus lie. I'm always mixing these up. Is there a trick to remember? No. Nope. I'm always mixing them up too, and usually if it doesn't come naturally, I do have to stop and double check Chicago Manual of Style myself. It is one of the ones that hang me up the most. There's some things you can't shake out. Someone wrote, oh my goodness, it's been 5 years. That's not even a question. There's a question mark after it, but it's not a question. Let's see, how important is it to world build? Okay, that's for Carlos. Is any of these for me at all? When sending a query letter or manuscript? Oh, look, Carrie answered that one for me. Let's see, ideas for fantasy world maps, not for me. Cover artist, not for me. For Carrie and for Carlos. Good, I got out of that one too. Tell me about Manny. I want to be part of the ongoing joke. Manny is not a joke. We take him very seriously. Next question. Let's see. Once the first draft is complete, does the story tend to alter through the next few drafts or remain largely the same? I would say that it remains largely the same after your first draft. Subsequent drafts are you fine-tuning, tweaking, finding plot holes here and there, maybe a piece of dialogue doesn't flow naturally, stuff like that. You're not rewriting the story. Your first draft should be your foundation. You've poured the concrete, you've put the walls up. Second, third, fourth drafts should be running the electrical, getting the plumbing in there, stuff like that. Besides describing that a character draws air quotes, so what I do, this is actually a great question because I get rid of the air quotes. I hate air quotes. And if it feels natural, I write the word so-called before it, and it's hyphenated. So-called. Like, oh, so she went to the mall, or, oh, so she went to the so-called mall. See, it's a little bit more natural. You don't have to put air quotes, a little less hokey. Not all sentences will be fluent with using so-called, and in that instance, I'll tend to italicize, which basically means that there's an inflection in their voice. But you can play around. There's no real hard or fast rule. It's just whatever feels right, but I find that the so-called method works. In my country, the perception of the literary level is that it's becoming lower. Oh, I see. sentence structure and grammar. I'm finding that I'm finding that so I started editing 7 years ago, and I would say that in the past 2 to 3 years, that there seems to be less focus on grammar and sentence structure before it comes to me. And I don't know if that's people, it could be twofold. It could be newer writers not reading classics as much, and it also could be that with self-publishing, there's so many books now that are so-called published that never saw an editor, so they have terrible sentence structure and they have terrible grammar, and so these authors are reading these books and assuming that this is correct grammar. Well, it must be because it's published and it's on my Kindle, so So I think that's playing into it. Which is making my job as an editor much harder. It's also making all of you guys' jobs who are self-publishing, who are taking your craft and your career seriously, much harder. This is something that I soapbox about a lot, that every time a unedited, poorly written novel is published, it muddies the water for the rest of us who are doing the right thing, who are hiring the editors, who are getting the good book covers, who are spending time researching, who are doing all of this stuff. There's no time limit that makes a novel good or bad. You could spend 3 years writing a novel and it could be absolute shit. You could spend 1 week writing a novel and it could be fantastic. It's the time isn't. It's based on what you've done, what you do with it after you're done. Brian, personal curiosities. Let me make sure I didn't skip anything. Yes, personal curiosities. Did you want to be a writer before you were a cop or vice versa? Haha, vice. Good one. And in quotes. Where is your editing background from? Did you just scour Chicago Man style until you were proficient, or were you trained? Okay, I wanted to be a writer since I was in the 7th grade. I wrote my first short story in the 7th grade. It was called The Night is Young. It's also the only piece of writing I've ever written that I do not still physically have in my possession. Someone spilt the only copy ever, like a liter of soda tipped over and doused it, and it's gone forever. But in 7th grade, I said that I wanted to be an author, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. I started writing Welcome to Parkview in 1991, which eventually became my second published novel in 2010. It went through a complete rewrite, multiple drafts, 3 editors, but all the way back in 1991, when I was 14, I was novel focused, and this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to, be a published author. So, and interesting enough, I graduated from the Georgia Police Academy on September 21st of 2007, and my first novel was published on October 16th of 2007. So just 3 weeks after becoming a cop in Georgia, I became a published author. So it was very weird how it matched up. My editing background. Was I minored in editing. Well, they didn't call it editing, but in college, my major was criminal justice, but I minored in technical writing, literary, American literary. We broke down stuff, and you blew up sentences, and you had to put them back together. God, it was so many years ago, I forget what it's called, but I got a certificate in it. Then I just didn't really worry about it after that. And then in 2013, when I was writing Yours Truly 2095, because I started writing that in 2012, I started sending chapters of it to an editor, and as I was getting my feedback, I started thinking, this might be something I'd like to do, and what I did was I shadowed an editor from a major publishing company for 2 years, which when you ask, well, how do you shadow an editor? What you do is it goes back and forth. This editor would edit a chapter of someone's novel, send it to me, kind of make me study it, then they would send me the next chapter and make me edit it, and then she would take it and show me what I did wrong and where I made mistakes and what could be better, and then she would really edit it for the client because, she was the one getting paid, but I did that for 2 years. It's for hundreds of thousands of words. I shadowed this editor. So I'm gonna move on. One question is, why do you want such a huge page? Personally, I'd want a small community so I can maintain quality of posts. That's I think that there is more than 20,000 writers in the world who could benefit from learning from all different facets of what we have to offer. So you know, that's like saying, well, you know, why do you want a mall that can only let in 50 people? You know, that has 100 stores. So that's why limit our knowledge. I'd love to know more about marketing and how to reach more people before releasing a book. That is a whole long thing in itself, so I'm not going to go down that road in detail, Whitney. However, I will tell you that where I have found the largest return on investment for me, I mean, I bought the DeLorean with totally 100% in cash from book sales over the last 9 years. I found the Facebook ads, when algorithmically used correctly, are amazing. And some Amazon ads, and if you can get into BookBub, you know, that's always a win. But marketing should never stop. I'm always, even if I'm at a dinner party, you find a way to, because you might get 1 or 2 sales out of that, but then that person tells somebody, and that person tells somebody, but you just don't stop. I've always subscribed to, I try to devote 2 hours a week. That's it, just a week. Somewhere within the week, I take 2 hours, and I say, these are my marketing 2 hours. And I either send emails, or I build my newsletter, or I post an ad somewhere, or I try to get, I just spend 2 hours a week. I pick a book. I have 5 published novels, and I don't spend 2 hours, because I don't dilute the 5 novels. Like, okay, this week, you know, Moonlight City Drive, I'm just gonna, for 2 hours, I'm gonna find a way to push that and push that. And then what I do is, because I use Ingram for my paperback sales, and Kindle for my ebook sales mostly, I can go and I'll go generate a report. I'll run a report for that week, and I'll start saying, well, you know, for instance, like last night I pulled a report from Ingram, and I sold 5 copies of Dreams Are Unfinished Thoughts last week in paperback, and that was something as small as one single Facebook post with a link, and I had you know, sold 5 copies. It's not a lot, but it's 5 more copies. So I do not use Twitter. I have an account. It's something that I don't find that works for me. It doesn't mean it doesn't work for everybody. That's Carrie. The unicorn just gave me a giggle, and I'm glad. Why does fiction writing allow silly memes instead of written comments in response to posts? I don't control that. That's Facebook. If Facebook allows you to reply with a meme, Facebook allows you to reply with a meme. There's only six of us in the admin team, and there's 120,000+ members. We can't take our time and go through every comment and going, who's posting a meme? Who's posting a meme? Facebook doesn't have the ability to not post memes. So that's why it's like saying, you know, why does UPS ring my doorbell? You know, when they have a package, why can't they knock? And then you're like, well, you have a doorbell, it's there. I mean, they have the, you know, if you don't want it, take off the doorbell. I can't take off the don't post meme, you know, reply. Let's see, cover design, filtering out some more of the reoccurring posts. Vanna, yes, we tried to do our best. We really do. If you could see the pending posts for 24 hours, you would not believe the stuff we have to go through. And we do all this for free. Nobody gets paid. My admin team does it just because they think I'm super handsome, and so, you know, they do have the kindness of their heart, and they want to be my friend, which I understand. Let's see. What is the hardest part about multitasking as an editor, publisher, and writer? I would say I tend to, when I have a lot of clients at one time, so like this month, August, I'm editing 11 novels right now. I have 11 novels that I'm currently inside editing for 11 different authors. When that happens, my writing suffers. I don't look at it. I don't touch it. I can't. I have these authors who have paid me upfront with a deadline. It's so that takes first and foremost. But what I do is I will choose a starting time where I say, okay, so for instance, I need to write Moonlight City Drive Part 3 because it's already been announced that it's coming out next year in 2021. So I have no way around that. But what I'll do is I'll say, okay, starting November 1st, I will take half the amount of clients that I usually would, because that will allow me to then spend that missing half of time for my writing. And then once the book is done, I'll open up my editing schedule again until it's time to write the next book, and then I'll only allow a certain amount of slots open, stuff like that. So, and I do have to do that, or I will neglect it. I do plan on 2021 being the first year where I publish one book a year. It's been every other year going back to 2015. But I'm going to do one a year starting next year. So I'm going to do Moonlight City Drive 3, then I'm going to do the Digital Underground, and then novelization, then I'm going to do the Pink Floyd novelization after that, and they're going to follow subsequently 2021, 2022, 2023. So every year I'm going to have to be more diligent of blocking out those writing times. And all right, sorry for the quick blip. Edelweiss came out. And is that saying she was just checking on me because she knew where I went. I'm going to go back to this. Let's see here. I'm sure this says a lot of us submit from like it says numbers on the page. Self-publishing world, starting a small business of one. How did you guys get over your trepidation? I assume you mean Scout Media. I started Scout Media in 2015, so Scout Media is 2 years older than fiction writing. That's kind of a lengthy story. I can make it really short. My first two novels were traditionally published on a small press. Dreams and Unfinished Thoughts in 2007, Welcome to Parkview in 2010. In 2012, the small press folded. All the authors got an email that said, as of December 31st at midnight, going into 2013, we are no longer a company. We are selling all of our authors to this other company, who I don't even think is around anymore either. But we're giving you the option to buy back your books, so they're yours again. And I chose to buy Dreams and Unfinished Thoughts and Welcome to Parkview back. So now I had my books again. And I was in the process of writing Yours Truly 2095, which I at the time assumed was going to be published by the small press. And now here I was without a publisher. I had two already published novels. I had one half written, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna start my own company. I'm gonna see if this works, if I can do it. And I started it in 2013, and here we are, 7 years later. I have 3 authors signed, not me. 3 authors signed: Doug Esper from Fiction Writing, Mike Edwards, the singer of the band Jesus Jones, and Todd Smith, the singer of the band Dog Fashion Disco. All 3 of them are signed. They've all released books under Scout Media, and we have the 7th of Words anthology coming out in the fall. So we're doing all right. You know, I'm not making a ton of money, but I make enough money where everything pays for itself. So it's not coming out of, not putting stuff on credit cards anymore. It's not coming out of the house fund anymore. So I'm not really trying to profit with the company yet, but it's not costing me anything to own the company. So, you know, we're hoping that in the next couple years, then all of a sudden, you know, we're making money. I don't count my books as the Scout Media royalties, though. I'm talking just the anthologies, and then Mike, Doug's, and Todd's stuff. My 5 novels is in a separate like pocket of the company. So I hope that answered that. I'm not sure. Let's see, to Carrie. I recently advanced reader copied for another writer. She loved my little comments and notes. She even said I should be an editor. A few have suggested the same. What do you do to get business if you have a blank portfolio? I didn't answer this in the last editing questions. Good. What I did was, after I shadowed that editor for 2 years or so, I then spent, I think the next year and a half, doing everything for free, absolutely everything for free to build the portfolio. And every time I edited for anybody, I asked them to, if they could give me an honest review or testimony. You don't want to sway them, because if you get vetted and they get contacted, you don't want to mince or change their words. You want them to say, yeah, I wrote that word for word about Brian or about the editor. Because people do follow up and make sure that those reviews are real and you just didn't write them and stuff like that. So I spent like 2 years editing for free, on top of being a police officer. I was still working as a cop at the time. And this was during the time where I was writing Yours Truly 2095. So I was writing a novel, I was working as a cop, and I was editing all hours of the night for free, not getting a penny for 2 years. And then my wife and I sat down and had a conversation about, do I have a big enough portfolio yet now? Do I have enough testimonials to actually start charging people, taking people's money from them, and trusting me with their work? And at the 2-year mark, we decided we did. And then word of mouth happened. Every time I edited a new client, I always ask them for a testimonial. Just, can you write me 2-3 sentences? And then I post that on the website that you can go read. And these are real, uncut, cut and paste. And I did that on purpose in case they're ever contacted. It doesn't look like I've deceived or lied in any of these reviews. So let's see. So a lot of people are saying that they're fluctuating between traditional publishing or self-publishing. That's really, it's like going to a restaurant and 2 people sitting down and the only 2 items on the menu is, steak or chicken, or let's do like steak and pasta in case someone's a vegetarian. I can't tell you what to order. It's what you feel, what feels right. You have a lot more freedom with self-publishing. You can pick your editor, you can pick your book cover, but you're in charge of the marketing, you're in charge of everything. You also own it though, forever. Being on a traditional publishing company, there's usually a contract with a time stipulation. For instance, with the Of Words novel anthologies, if you get picked and you're in one and you get the contract from Scout Media, it very clearly states that you are not allowed to publish that story anywhere else for 366 days, which is 1 year and 1 day after the publication of that anthology. And this is so your story doesn't appear in our Of Words books, and then next week it's in another anthology, and then the week after that it's in another anthology, and then now you've just saturated everything. And who's going to come buy your story from Of Words if it's also in 3 other books or online somewhere? So that's another thing, is you're kind of tied down to the contract and the timeline. But after 366 days with Of Words, it's yours scot-free. You can do whatever you want with it from there, and you can put it out. It's yours. It's still published in our Of Words anthology, but the time has expired where now you can do whatever you want with it. Do you need to have permission to use song lyrics or book quotes? Absolutely. Yes, you absolutely need permission. You cannot verbatim copy song lyrics. I don't care if the character says, this is my favorite song from the Beatles, and then you put the lyrics. I don't care if you can't, even though you give them credit, that's not giving them credit. Credit means you've paid for it. You've paid the registry. Either BMI or ASCAP or wherever it's registered. As a rock fiction author, my entire world is built from the source material of lyrics. And there is a way to get around, it's called the Jumpin' Jack Flash rule. It's a loophole, which means that you rewrite what was sung in your own words, or you describe what was being sung about. You turn it into an action, which is basically rock fiction. May I ask, what group did you make your exodus from, Brian Paoni? That's old news. I'd like to leave that one dead at the door. The people who were involved in the exodus know it well, so. Let's see. Okay, so this is writing an adventure fantasy about an 11-year-old girl, saying about 87,000 words. might be book one of a trilogy. You should assume the reader base will usually be a few years younger than the main character. You should assume that your reader base is 2 or 3 years younger, the same age, and then 2 or 3 years older. There's a swing when you're doing young adult. And The Hunger Games is probably the best example I can give. Katniss was supposed to be what? I could be wrong, but I think she was supposed to be like 16. And I know 14, 13-year-olds that love that book. I know 16-year-olds that love that book. I know 20, 21-year-olds who love that book. So you put the middle of the character in the middle, and then you kind of, on either side. I hope that answers your question. Should the language reflect the reading ability? So your language should reflect, if your main character is 11 and it's a first person, then the language should reflect what an 11-year-old would think and say. If it's not going to be first person, it's going to be third person, and you, the author, other narrator, then you have a little bit more room to play with. You should step it up a little bit of a notch. If she's 11, use 13-year-old language. This also helps kids learn new words as they're reading. That is an opinion, that is not a rule anywhere. Are publishers super strict about word counts? It depends on the genre. Romance novels tend to have very stringent parameters. Yes, young adult novels tend to also. So, should the professional editor I choose have a background in children's novels? You should at least ask if what they've edited, and if they have, ask for the author name. If they give it, see if you can find that author and just shoot them a quick email or whatever and say, I don't mean to be too forthcoming, but I'm thinking of hiring so-and-so. I saw that they edited your book. It's very similar to mine. What was it like? Please vet your editors. And I say that about me. I have, please vet your editors. For Brian, this is from Gabby. I know business relies on writers' mistakes, but how frustrating is it to correct the same issues multiple times? It is never frustrating to correct the same issue multiple times for multiple authors. But when I have a client who I've been working with for a long time, and the same mistakes is coming up over and over, and ones that I've even made comments on the track changes and given an explanation of the rule, and I've broken it down, then yes, it can be very frustrating. But I get paid to fix mistakes, and I get paid by the word, not by the time. So you're paying me to fix your story, whether it's a short story or a novel, so the mistakes are in there. That's what you paid me to do, is fix them. You're not paying me to teach you how to fix it. That's just an added benefit. And if you're going to listen to me, then great. If not, you're still going to have to pay me on the next one to fix it. Do you use betas or advanced reader copies for the Of Words anthologies? I don't know if I'm sure most of the authors do use beta readers. I don't know what is the question, like the Scout Media, after we've picked them, then use betas? I don't really understand the question. The admins here are amazing. Keep up the great work. 3 hearts. It's awesome. Let's see. How do you go about finding quality person who audible version of your book? I audition. All of my novels are an audiobook, and everyone has had an audition. I pick a chapter, and then I pick like 3 to 5 narrators that have worked in that genre, and then I send them all the same exact chapter. That way you can hear the way that they're gonna say the same piece of dialogue over and over. And I sit down and I listen to them all back to back, no space in between, boom, 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 and I take notes, and I pick them, and that's how I've done the audition. Well, yeah, that's how I've done the audition for them. So, but you can have them audition. They'll usually do, like 2,000 words for free, or like I do 1,500 word sample edits for free to see if we're a good fit. Most narrators will give you a certain amount of wordage count to see if you like their tone and the way that they enunciate, and especially if you have accents or dialect. You do not want to hire someone like me, like to try to mimic, someone from the South. Because then I just sound like I'm from Jamaica. That's what my wife says. She's like, every time you try to, do an accent of like someone from like deep South Georgia, it sounds like I'm from the island somewhere. Because I can't do accents. Like, I'm terrible at them. That's really not for me. I think. Oh, wait a minute. We're almost there. And of course. Oh, here we go. Let's see. That's really long. I'm not quite sure what they're asking. Pros and cons, traditional versus self-publishing. I kind of covered that earlier. Do I need to use fonts? Okay, David, that was a joke. I like your humor. Have any of the admins gone to or participated in writing conventions? I have. In fact, a couple of you, Don Taylor actually got on a plane from Minnesota and flew to California to do the one that I was part of. But yes, I have been asked to do 4 or 5 now total. Each one, I've been asked to do slightly different things, but mostly I do there's an hour presentation that I have on marketing, online marketing. But yes, and they're fun. Me and Aaron were on a panel in Fredericksburg, Virginia 2 years ago. We ran a panel, a writing discussion. Oh, I was on another panel in Monterey, California for their local library thing. But yeah, so I get asked sometimes to do them, and it'll either be something specific about writing or marketing. And I would suggest going to one that's close to you, that covers what you're looking for. If you could care less about writing science fiction, don't go to a science fiction writing convention. Stuff like that. I guess that's kind of, let's see. Carol Lynn, who has sat in the DeLorean, asks if I tend to stay classic rock with my genre of music when I do my rock fiction stuff. I do tend to stay classic rock, but I have done others, and I plan on doing others. Like I am going to do the Digital Underground novelization after Moonlight City Drive 3. Of course, that's rap. I don't know. So my story in A Matter of Words was a adaptation of a Moby song. Moby, he's electronica, so he's not classic rock. I'm trying to think what else. It's terrible. It's not coming to me. But yeah, I do tend to stay classic rock. But I have a list. I have a Microsoft Word document that has all the albums I want to turn into novels, and then all the songs I want to turn into short stories. And I tend to have a lot of songs. Oh, I have a Pink song that I want to turn into a short story, and a Tori Amos song that I want to turn into a short story. I know there's got to be some others, but I don't have it in front of me. So, and let's see. All admins, do you like writing in the same genre? Well, so the thing about rock fiction is kind of the umbrella, and then the genre can be anything, drama, sci-fi, So all of my 5 novels are different genres, even, But Stephen King is my favorite author, so I tend to read him first. But also on the flip side, like right now, I am currently reading all 15 Wizard of Oz novels in a row. I got all 15 books as one file for Kindle, so it acts like it's just one big novel as opposed to 15. It actually breaks up each book into a chapter, so it's like 15 chapters, but it's like 200,000 words. Right now, I'm on the 6th Wizard of Oz book, so I'll go all over the place. Would it be confusing for one chapter to be written in third person and the next chapter to be written in first? It depends on the reader. Some readers have no problem switching back and forth. Some readers have to stay within the same POV or they get confused. So that question is based on who's reading it. What made you decide to do editing? To me, I answered it before how I got started, but what made me decide was, I remember what made me decide. When self-publishing kind of reared its head in like 2012, I bought a bunch of novels on the Kindle, and I couldn't believe how many mistakes I was finding. And my wife got so sick of me saying, hey, look, this word spelled wrong. Look, this should be a comma here. Or look, it's missing an end quotation mark. Or I'd be like, look, this, it switches tenses. I think she slapped her hands on her knees and was like, well, then why don't you, if you think you can do it, why don't you do it then? And I was like, challenge accepted. So that's pretty much there. Can an admin or mod message me ASAP, please? Messaging you now. Okay. How do you incorporate format lyrics into your prose? Like I said, go to the frequently asked questions under announcements. I do a whole thing about how you can put lyrics into your work where you won't get sued. There is a way. Don't just be like, damn it, I can't put lyrics in here, so the whole thing. There's a very, you have to be creative, but there's a very specific way that you can get the reader to know exactly what song your characters are referencing or listening to or dancing to without actually using the words that are being sung. And if anybody wants any more information on that or examples, just private message me, hit me up, come to my house, I don't care, just, that's for Carlos. One of the reasons why someone's dragging their feet finishing their current novel is because they don't want to say goodbye to the world they built. It took me 19 years to write and finish Welcome to Parkview because I could not step away from that world that I had built. 19 years. I started it in 1991. It was published in 2010. And I was so scared to stop writing, stop tweaking. I did not want to leave that town that felt that I had lived in, so-called lived in, longer than, 19 years. 2 more years, the town could drink. That's longer than some of my friendships, most of my friendships. So I get that. What you got to do is you just got to, sometimes giving it to someone else to read and saying this is my final draft is all it takes. And that's what it took me for Welcome to Parkview. I said I had 3 editors work on it. I really did. I had 3 completely different editors work on it. And when I handed it to the very first editor, I said, it's done. I'm not writing anything else. And once it was out of my hands, like that night it's like, wow, 19 years. I finally didn't miss it. It was like the first time where I was like, oh man, this is great. I don't miss this town anymore. Let's see. What elevates a book from a good read to a great one that really impacts you and leaves you thinking? If you can evoke emotion. So my scoring for the Of Word series is 1, 2, or 3. And the ones that make it are the ones that evoke any type of emotion, anything. If I'm reading it and I laugh, or I'm scared, or I'm happy, or I cry, that's what's between a good and a great story. You make you make the reader feel something because of something one of your characters are doing, or the style of writing that you have. You provoke an emotion. Same thing with music. You ask me why, my top 10 favorite bands in the world are my top 10 favorite bands in the world, because when I listen to them even now, years of being a fan, that same chord, that same line of lyrics still gives me goosebumps. Let's see. Does my DeLorean have a name? Yes. My parents call it Sully, Sully, because their last name is Sullivan, and Sully's a nickname for Sullivan. And my mother picked up the tab to have the car shipped and registered from Michigan to California. So she calls it Sully because she calls it that. But in the DeLorean community, like online and on Facebook and anytime I do car shows, everybody knows it as the Contramobile, because you can't see it. But if I was to open up the louvers or anything around it, there's all the little Contra from Nintendo. They're all hiding throughout the inside of the car, all little Easter eggs. So it's been lovingly dubbed the Contramobile by the DeLorean community. Let's see, editing question. My first novel has taken 9 years to get to where it is today. It's still 10 less than mine. My second novel, I completed my first draft. I'm just joking. Finding it hard going, it will go to a professional editor once it's in the state I'm happy with. It could be great to hear some advice on how to edit. Is there a particular process to follow that would help? Sending to a professional editor, would different editors be likely to come up with different opinions? Absolutely. Editors are like authors, okay? If I give you a prompt, if I take 10 authors and I give you a writing prompt, there's going to be 10 different stories, completely different stories there, okay? If I say, if I give you parameters, if I give you hard and fast rules, okay, you get to write a story about this bowl of apples, it has to be sci-fi, it has to be this, has to be this, has to be this, but everything else is on you, on your imagination, creativity. Yes, I'm gonna get 10 different stories back. Same thing with editors. Even us line editors who have a very strict manual to follow, the Chicago Manual of Style, there are hard and fast rules, but if you gave your book to 10 different editors and we still all followed the hard and fast rules, you would still get 10 different versions, tweaks of your novel back, because every editor has their own tone, just like every author has their own tone. So even though we'd all be following the same rules, just like all those authors would be following the same rules about the bowl of apples, the tone is still going to come back slightly different from all those editors. So I know that probably is the worst answer that you want to hear, because then you're like, well, how do I find an editor that works with me? Any good editor will offer you free samples. I offer free samples. You can take it, and my feelings unhurt when people write back and they're like, hey, you're a piece of shit editor, I hope you go to hell and die. But getting that free sample back, you can go, okay, I like the way he did this, I didn't like the way she did this, I like the way she did this, I didn't like the way he did this, I didn't like the way any of them did any of this, and then you kind of whittle it down from there. So, boo. And sometimes when I'm editing, it's not that there's a hard and fast rule, it's I feel it out. I've edited now, I'm coming up on my 450th manuscript that I've edited. I've also written 5 novels that are published. So, I kind of have somewhat of a good basis under me, and sometimes it's a gut feeling of what is gonna sound right and what works here. Kind of like when I was a police officer, because I was in law enforcement for 16 years, there's some feelings when you go to a call that you can't teach, there's just something down where you go, yeah, this, you approach a car in a traffic stop and you go, yeah, I got to come at this a little bit differently. And I can't even put into words why, but I think I'm going to go around the passenger side and talk to the driver, because and it's not even that there's anything specific, I couldn't even put it on paper. And I think good editors have that, there's like a sixth sense where you look at a sentence and you're like, it's not breaking any actual rules, but it's clunky, and I think we can make this a little bit better. So I hope that answers your question. Sorry for the sirens outside. I think they found me. Let's see. World building. I think I may be done. When do you begin marketing? You begin marketing the moment that you know that you absolutely have a product. Don't start marketing when you start writing, because you could abandon the book, you could decide not to finish it, you could realize it's terrible, you could be marketing and then change your entire plot halfway through. You start marketing when you know exactly who your target audience is going to be, and that you are going to have a product out there. There's nothing worse than a band or a director or an author advertising something that never actually comes out, that never happens. So don't start marketing unless you 100% know this is going to see the light of day. With that said, if you absolutely, in your gut, 100% know that you are going to have this book finished by 2025, then you start marketing now. That's it. There's no such thing as, you gotta be smart about it. And as you get closer and closer and closer, you're gonna have to start to tweak your marketing. You wanna gain intrigue, and then you don't wanna bore them. So Me personally, I start marketing the moment that my book goes to my editor. Because yes, I have an editor. Never, ever, ever, ever be the editor for the final draft. I don't care if you think you're awesome, please get an editor to do the last draft. And editors have an editor, the editors that write. So as soon as my novel goes to Denise, the moment it's sent to her, I start advertising. I start marketing it, and I keep pretty quiet about the book until that happens, because anything can happen, anything can go wrong during that writing. But once my novel is in Denise's inbox, I know that that book is coming out, that book is going to be published and going to be released. So you have to decide at what point in your process is there the no turning back line. And once you've crossed that line, start marketing, start doing it. Did you know that there is a book, a self-published, not traditionally published, right? So take all those out of the mix. But there is a self-published novel uploaded to Kindle, one every 4 minutes. Every 4 minutes, somebody uploads a new book to Kindle. Me and Annalise, my oldest daughter, were talking about this the other day, and I think we did the math. I broke out a calculator. It's something like 340 books a day, constantly, are self-published. So take away everything else. So yeah, it's a pond that keeps getting bigger and bigger, and muddier and muddier. The more and more unedited stuff gets thrown in there. So. Is there a preference for this? Independent phrases where the second has an implied subject, you still use a semicolon. She jumped, fell hard. Ignoring conjunctions, I often use them, add the subject back in it. She jumped, she fell hard. So she jumped, comma, fell hard is really clunky. It's also, he's not really breaking any real awful rule. It's just, again, goes back to the intuition of it feeling clunky. I would rewrite it as she jumped and fell hard, no comma with the conjunction of and. The she jumped semicolon she fell hard is also very jarring to read as a reader. It makes the reader come to a full stop. It makes it feel like you paused a movie for a second to listen for a noise in the house. And then unpause it. So she jumped, oh, pause. Oh, she fell. So that's what the semicolon does for me as an editor when it comes to action. Semicolons, I think, should be used to add an aside or additional information from the first set of action. But I would not do two separate actions with a semicolon. Super jarring for a reader. And, God, that might be it. Oops, nope, one last one. How do you select, find beta readers? Picking your friends and family. Do not pick your friends and family. Don't do it. Because they will only tell you what you want to hear. They will only compliment you. And they just, you'd be like, oh, no, they won't. They won't. No, they will. They will. You want strangers who read in the genre. You want to know how to do that? You know how I did that once? I went to Amazon and I went to the reviews of novels that were like my novel, and I found all the reviewers who happened to use their email address. And I emailed them, apologizing for unsolicitedly emailing them, but wondering if they would get willing to read my novel and give me feedback. So I went right to Amazon, typed in a couple authors' names, a couple books' names, made a list, and emailed these complete strangers out of the blue, and got some great, interesting feedback. I had one guy who was in an airport, super excited. He thought he won the lottery that day. I emailed it to him. He read it on the plane. Complete strangers. They're not authors. They're not editors. They're not authors. They're not friends. They are readers. You want readers. Beta readers. Don't do beta authors, okay? Because an author will look at it from an author standpoint. I am so against using other authors, other editors, friends and family as beta readers. You want strangers in your genre who are readers. Did I make myself clear? Okay, I think that's it. I'm gonna hopefully splice these two together where Edelweiss interrupted me. And so have a good rest of our 5-year birthday. And I did promise a giveaway. I think I'm giving away 10 free copies of my 5 novels, the 6 of Words books. Carrie is giving away some things. We're gonna figure out how that works. I might, I don't know. I'm gonna figure that out. I haven't quite yet. So, but anyway, everyone be safe. Happy writing. I'm always just a message, a PM away. I'm pretty forthcoming with that. You know, don't ever be afraid to shoot me something, a private message if you have a question, a follow-up that you don't want to be in front of 120,000 people. And I'm gonna go see what type of mess Manny's gotten himself into while I've been out here recording this. All right, bye everybody.